Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. Everybody in this context refers to us and our cats. You are free to feel however you want about Rand. He's a fictional character. Please don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
Yeah, well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions, now we have to actually talk about Elaine. My nemesis.
We don't have to.
Yeah, what point?
No one has a gun to our head.
We haven't signed any contracts. We just are. At what point do we cross into false advertising?
Well, last time we said we weren't a Wheel of Time podcast, I think, so...
No, we did.
Did we? Oh, beans. This is Everybody Hates Rand. May or may not be a Wheel of Time podcast at this point.
No promises.
No promises made. No contracts broken. Emily's looking at the back page, which is advertising New Spring.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that cover of New Spring. It looks pretty much exactly like Eye of the World. But yeah, sorry, I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I'm Sally Goodger.
On sale, January 6th, 2004 in hardcover.
Oh, wow.
Jeez, he really did a prequel before finishing the series. It's embarrassing for him. Real Game of Thrones move.
Just, like, finish your series. I mean, I'm not one to talk, but...
I mean, if you are published, then you are contractually obligated to finish your series.
I agree. I think it is kind of silly. Like, at what point do you just stop? Just say you're not finishing George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, George R. R. Martin.
Cat
Admit
Rothfuss.
defeat.
Yeah.
Admit
defeat.
that you can't do it, and either get Brandon Sanderson to do it for you, or give up.
Man, what would Brandon Sanderson's Game of Thrones look like?
You know, honestly, I think it would be better.
I do too. I will throw my support behind Branderson on that one. I think he would I don't say clean it up as in like sanitize it, though he might do that as well. Make less sex and violence, and particularly less sexual violence.
Yeah, I have to imagine he would. I don't know if it's against his religion or what who knows.
Yeah, but I don't like the word sanitize, but I can't think of anything else. I think Game of Thrones would benefit from a little sanitization is what I'm saying. And I also think Brandon Sanderson would clean it up and that it would just make the plot a little bit more tidy.
Yeah. Brandon Sanderson, for his faults as a writer. Every writer has their faults, and we have probably over-focused on Brandon's since he's one of the writers of this series.
Yeah.
He doesn't do a whole ton of, like, violence against women for the sake of violence against women.
Yeah, you know.
Which, seems like a bar that's in the ground to step over, but
yeah.
We will give him that.
Well, we'll give him that credit. I also feel like he's very good at, like, getting to the point a little bit more than George R. R. Martin.
I mean, you say that, but he did start the way of, what's that? Stormlight Archives? And was like, they'll be so thick.
Well, that's true. I haven't read the Stormlight Archives, so yeah, I can't speak to that.
I don't know how good they are at staying on topic. I only read the first 1, 2. Did I read the second one? I have a vague memory of reading the second one.
We have one of them over there on our bookshelf, right? Yeah, Wave Kings.
Yeah, we have it for reference material. And in case I one day am feeling something.
Anyway, I do think Brandon Sanderson's Game of Thrones would be, good.
Let's all sign a petition anyway. I feel like Brandon Sanderson's fans will sign anything that he...
That's true.
Give him any amount of money.
Do Brandon Sanderson fans have a name? Or do they call themselves the Brandersons?
The Brandos.
The Brandos?
Brandaroos.
Brandaroos. I like Brandaroos.
Yeah, the Brandaroos. Like bros, but with some extra syllables.
Brandaroos rolls off the tongue nicely.
And I just think it would be really funny if the Brandaroos were like You're not doing anything with it. We will take this from
We will take this from you, George R. R. Martin, and we will give it to our god, Brandon Sanderson, and he will at least finish it.
Maybe he hasn't even watched the series. I'm sure he's read the book. Well,
I think it would be so powerful if Brandon Sanderson is out there just, like, not having read
not
Game of
engaging
Thrones,
with Game of Thrones
not
at
having
all.
watched Game of Thrones, not even reading the Wikipedia summary. He's just like, I don't need that.
I can't decide. I mean, I don't know Brandon Sanderson personally, so I can't tell you which is stronger, his Mormon complex or his fantasy writer complex.
You're right,
You
you're
know?
right.
Like, who knows? But in this particular instance, I hope it's his Mormon complex, because I think that would be incredibly funny if he was like,
Yeah.
I don't watch Game of Thrones, and I don't read Game of Thrones.
And I would be like, Brandon, what is it like to live in a perfect world?
Yeah, Brandon,
Where
you did it. You did it.
You never consumed Game of Thrones content.
Oh man, you've stayed,
You've stayed pure. You're
stayed
the
pure
only
and
one
clean.
of us that's pure.
besides Jesus himself.
Besides, well, don't know if we need to put any man that high. We
Sacrilege.
can say that you're stronger than Emily's sister Sarah, who watched all of Game of Thrones in like 3 minutes flat. So
Yeah, Sarah has a problem with the following: hyperfixating, needing adult content because she spends all her time with toddlers,
yeah, it's relatable.
and hyperfixating again.
Yeah, it's on the list twice for obvious reasons.
Yeah, she really can't help it. Okay, right. This is still a Wheel of Time. This is maybe a Wheel of Time
This is
podcast.
maybe a Wheel of Time podcast.
We'll see.
Again, I will not make any promises.
Yeah,
This
we've
is
been
not a
tangentially related thus
Game
far
of
anyway.
Thrones podcast. What on earth would I
Speaking
have
of
to
Game
say?
of Thrones,
I mean, we basically are. That's a good point. We basically are reading Game of Thrones right now with Elaine's point of view.
yeah, that's true. We just, at the end of last chapter, which we summarized without reading, Elaine says, I always pay my debts. You know, like
Fucking- What's his name? Tywin Lannister?
or like any of the, isn't that their,
Yeah,
like,
the
house
Lannisters always
motto?
pay their debts. A Lannister always pays his debts or something.
It would be
like that.
so funny if every family just in the world had, like, a dumb motto. Jushaws consider themselves superior to everyone else.
I think my family's would be bad genes.
Bad genes.
Not genes Genes, not
Yeah.
Jeans.
You guys have good genes, denim genes.
Good denim genes. Bad genetic material.
materials.
That's what ours would be.
Jushaws, intellectually elitist since whenever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
Quite a while.
my maternal grandfather was very into family history. I feel like he's probably tracked down what my mom's family's like actual motto was back in the
Oh, that's nice.
England times. I don't know what it is.
All I know is that we were Luddites.
Nice.
You know, the people who broke machinery because it was taking their jobs. And I wish we'd kept that attitude.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen,
Be a little more on the side of the workers' revolution.
yeah. Billionaires own a lot of things that you can break or burn. You didn't hear that from me.
Yeah, that's not a suggestion. That's just a fact.
It's just a fact. He,
The billionaire.
billionaire.
If you face smashed all the billionaires together, that's what he would be. He would just look like a Caucasian blob. Like the guy in One Punch Man. Caucasian blob sounds like a horror movie.
Caucasian blob. Oh my Christ. One Punch Man really got me.
I haven't watched it. I just know his character design.
Yeah, his character design is
an
very
egg.
funny. He loses all his hair because he trains too hard. It's like canon.
It's like training-induced alopecia.
Yeah, basically. Like, it's a...
I would think it was just like he punches so hard his hair can't keep up with him or something.
If I'm remembering correctly, like, he had... The whole thing is he's like... Everyone's like, how'd you get so strong, One Punch Man? And he's like, this is my workout. And it's like 100 push-ups a day, 100 sit-ups a day, run like 5 miles a day. And they're all like, there's no way that has made you the strongest.
Yeah, I was
man
like,
on earth."
I feel like that's very much.
And he's like, no. And he's like, no, I'm serious. This is the workout I did for like a year, and now I'm like the strongest man in the universe. I like punched an alien ship into pieces. And they're like, this is ridiculous. And he's like, yeah, as I was training, all my hair fell off. And in the flashbacks, he's got this like horrible mop of black hair. So, yeah, I think if you, smash all the billionaires together, One Punch Man, Caucasian, Blob.
Yeah.
Bald because Jeffrey Bezos isn't bringing any hair to the table.
Yeah, there maybe be like 3 wisps.
That tracks.
Wisps of hair, and it would be white or gray.
Anyway, the best character in One Punch Man is named Metal Bat, and he
took a left turn.
the thing is that he carries around a baseball bat and he hits people with his baseball bat.
He's sort of the Steve Harrington of the One Punch Man universe.
Steve Harrington style Stilinski archetype.
Yeah, you have to love a character who's just like, it's me and a baseball bat. What are you gonna do? It's just me, average Joe, against the forces of evil.
Yeah, and my baseball bat.
And my baseball bat. And I'm like, yeah, that would be me, probably.
I don't think I could even exist in a horror type universe.
Oh, I mean, I don't think so either. I'm not final girl material, but
I mean, I don't even think I would like be killed off first. I think I am like, something about me is intrinsically opposed to being in that universe. Like, I wouldn't even make it. God would be like, no.
You'd just be like,
throw her in the trash. Throw that soul in the trash bin.
You don't even think you could just be like a background character, you know? Like someone at the school while the other children in the school are going on mysteries.
No, because there's a chance I might be the one murdered, you know?
Yeah, I
there's
guess
always
you're
that chance. And I just couldn't do it.
Okay, well.
So, if you guys, think about that.
I think I'd be killed off first.
I also think...
or like second or third.
Not to like... take this turn. But I also think that those like survivor movies, horror movies, apocalypse movies, do like a really bad job taking into account like the disability experience.
Yeah.
Like if I think about this often, like I'll be on my walks in the morning and I'll be like, I have to wear my knee brace when I'm walking right now because I'm trying to recondition after a knee injury. And I'm always like, if I had to run from something right now, I'm like, well, obviously I could take the knee brace off, but I still wouldn't be able to run very far because I have so many debilitating things going on and I wouldn't really be able to fight. So I just don't think those types of genres really do a good job with that. It's always like you're hale and hearty and you still get attacked. There's like no infrastructure around disability. I think. I'm not very familiar with the genre, but that's my take.
No, I agree. I don't think there are really horror movie characters who are disabled unless you're like a lady who's blind.
Right.
And then that's the, like, movie, you know?
Right.
Or deaf.
Right. Yeah, I mean, disabled characters do exist in those movies, but I think they're always either, like, disabled in the point where they have, like, some sort of, like, magical ability. Like, you are a blind prophetess or something. Or are kind of played off as, like, a freak, so to speak. So, I don't think there's just, like, someone on our main cast of characters who is disabled and who has to contend with that while also fighting for their life.
Yeah, who's just, like, on crutches or a wheelchair or something.
Yep.
Yeah. It's too bad.
So,
someone...
think on that a little bit.
Think on that, horror movie directors. I guess there's, No, I mean, that sort of is what you're talking about. The whole point of The Quiet Place is that the main girl is deaf, so her whole family speaks ASL, so that's how they're able to survive in the universe. But that's like very much a one-off.
I thought the whole point of The Quiet Place was that they had to speak in sign language because the monsters are attracted to sound.
Yeah, but that's like why their family was equipped to communicate when.
Well, that's interesting.
Why they're survivors.
That's interesting. I take the
rebuttal. I still think your overall point remains, and I think The Quiet... is it A Quiet Place or The Quiet Place? I can't fucking remember.
Google.
I don't remember either.
I think it's The Quiet Place.
A Quiet Place. I don't know.
The Quiet Place. Yeah, A Quiet Place. No, you're right. Oh. A Quiet Place.
Who knows?
John Krasinski and what's her face? Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt. Aren't they real life married?
Yeah.
Okay.
Real life marriaged.
Real life marriaged. I don't know. I didn't like that movie, but not for that reason. I just didn't like it because a toddler dies in like the first 3 minutes.
Oh, that is deeply upsetting.
Yeah.
No.
And my whole family was like, what's the problem? And I was like,
a child died.
A child died. I'm sorry. That was my problem. That's my limit. Goodbye.
Yeah. Okay, we will talk about Wheel at Time. Wheel at Time. We will talk about the Wheel at Time.
The Wheel to Time.
The wheel, the two-wheel to time.
Two-wheel to time.
Tokyo Drift. Not to like make this Sally's soapbox day, but I just really do, this is me just like throwing my support behind the concept of content warnings and trigger warnings and making them more mainstream, because like any child dying is like deeply upsetting, but also like my family had a very young child die and it was deeply traumatic. And my brother Ian, the child's father, went to see Thor Love and Thunder, and like the villains, I have not seen the movie, but what he said was that the movie was extremely triggering because one of the open scenes is about the villain's child dying.
Yeah, the precipitating event is that the little girl dies in his arms.
And I understand that like that one in particular, like a child dying, is not necessarily something people think about because we don't like to think about it. Like we think of content warnings more in the terms of like sexual assault, or this is a deeply racist piece of media, or whatever, you know, trying to give trigger warnings for that type of thing. But I think it's just like Emily went to see it and she's like, do you want to come? And one, I couldn't go because I was super sick that day, and also like I don't really want to see that because it's going to put me in a bad space. So I'm like, I'm glad I knew, but for all those people like my brother who didn't know. So I don't know, just some food for thought when you're thinking about things that could be potentially traumatic, or if you're a creator, think about putting content warnings for that type of stuff on your work.
Yeah, it's especially interesting because like there's a difference between really extremely mainstream media like Thor and like horror movies, where to a certain extent I feel like you are signing up for triggering content.
Yeah, that's a good point, Emily.
I do feel like when you reach into the like bounds of horror movies, if you are having people who are like, you should watch this, which is what my family did to me with Quiet Place, then they maybe should have been like, here are some upsetting things that happen, you know? Right. Whatever, but that's, again, it's a horror movie, you are sort of, what you see is what you get. This is why I read the Wikipedia summaries for horror movies before I ever engage with them. But yeah, with mainstream media especially, there's like traumatic things that happen all over the place that's just like, we're just like, oh, it's part of the movie, you know. And if it's not since it's not graphic, then
they're like,
we don't consider it a problem.
No, that's a fair point. There's a kind of a contract of participation almost for like different forms of media. And that's not to say it's not worthwhile to have content warnings on horror movies, because like everyone has a different threshold, but like it is just like a totally different, there's just like a lot to consider there. I find content warnings and trigger warnings really interesting. I'm very pro them, but I have a lot of trauma that I'm dealing with that I don't like to be sitting in a movie theater on a Saturday and suddenly be deeply triggered by Thor Love and Thunder.
Yeah, you know? Don't expect Thor to do that, but it can. Anything can.
Anything can. Just some food for thought out of the Sally camp.
It's just like, things don't have to be graphic to be triggering. One of my favorite book series includes like a very traumatic thing that happens to one of the main characters, and it's never like depicted, right, even in flashback really, but it still comes with like lots of trigger warnings because you're dealing so extensively with like aftermath and the character's trauma that it's still triggering. Anyway, speaking of content warnings, Wheel of Time content warning. I'm also very irritated the more we get into this series, and this just sort of goes back to what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, I guess. But I feel like this series really took a left turn in terms of how graphic it was. And Wheel of Time is still not a very graphic text in terms of like sex or sexual violence. It has always been incredibly violent. It's been doing that since book 2 at the very least. But, like, we suddenly, here at the end of this series, are dealing with all these rapist characters.
Yeah.
Or sexual harassers. Hatchet face point.
Yeah, hatchet face, case in point.
Yeah, case in point, that's what I was trying to say. And I'm just like, what happened? Back at Camp Robert Jordan, was he just like, people will lose interest unless women are being threatened with rape. And it's like, oh, maybe he read Game of Thrones.
And he was like, oh, I can do that?
Oh, I can do that? A word?
And here I will just pepper in some sexual assault.
Yeah, just to
why not?
Just to remind people that I hate women. As though you didn't know that already. Okay, I guess we have to talk about it. These 2 chapters include the infamous, absolutely infamous, like 6 or 7 page bath sequence. In which Elaine and Avienda just got back to the palace. They go up to have a bath. And we just have to listen to... Like, they're not, like, in the bath, but we have to listen to descriptions of all of Elaine's maids, them being undressed, them getting into the water, how Avienda's, like, weird about water, how Avienda's weird about being dressed. Meanwhile, Elaine's just sort of, like, thinking about things. Blobbity blah blah blah. And it's like, seriously, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... 8.5 while they're in the bath. And it's like, a lot of that is Elaine thinking about things. She's thinking about Gawain and Galad, because Brigitte is, like, giving a report while they're in the bath, and we are not given the, like, report verbatim. We're just mostly getting Elaine's reactions to it. So she's like, I wonder where Gawain and Galad are. I hope they're safe.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't need to spend 3 pages on that, but you do. And there's a reference to how there's a bunch of Aes Sedai in Camelin, and everyone is convinced that it's like the White Tower showing support for Elaine as queen. Elaine herself does not know what they are doing there. I myself do not know what they are doing there. I don't know that it ever becomes relevant.
I don't either.
It hasn't in Knife of Dreams, right?
I don't think so. No.
So...
Oh. No, one of the rotating cast of Aes Sedai comes to the palace, and is like, I'm going to be your advisor. And Elaine is like, no. And that's all that happens, as far as I know.
So, for all we know, it is just a bunch of Aes Sedai who are like, I have nowhere else to be, I'll just hang out in Camelin.
Right.
A city that's under siege.
It's a sexy place to hang out, apparently.
I mean, Elaine's like, the siege doesn't affect Aes Sedai very much because they're incredibly privileged.
Yeah.
It's like, once food starts running out, you can bet the Aes Sedai aren't going to be going hungry.
Yeah, Aes Sedai privilege, there's something to talk about.
Yeah, they're so feared. Anyway, their bath is, the stupid-ass bath is interrupted by the sea folk windfinders.
Can I say 2 quick things about the bath?
Yeah.
1, 8 pages really is so egregious. Like, I'm not opposed to giving characters rest periods. We've talked about this in the past, like, the idea of, like, there are periods of great action in books, and then there need to be, like, rest periods in order for the characters and the readers to kind of, like, recover. But 8 pages, man.
There also hasn't been any intense action which to recover from.
That's true. Yeah, it's be a moment where, like, Elaine needs to recover, so have a paragraph talking about how she's taking a bath. You know,
yeah, Elaine maybe does need to recover because she's been doing some, like, stressful political things, and the Big Beacon is stressing her out, but that's not something we, the readers, necessarily need to recover from.
No. I also think it is absolutely ridiculous that Robert Jordan, just, like... in terms of, like, Elaine and Avienda's, like, deeply gay-coded relationship, to have them taking literally, like, hers and hers baths, like, all those erectile dysfunction commercials where they're on the porch in 2 clawfoot bathtubs next to each other. That's exactly what I thought of the whole time.
Yeah.
It was just, like, this is so ridiculous, Robert. Like, I don't take baths with my female friends.
Yeah, and Brigitte just watching over it all with her... lesbianish gaze.
Yeah, she's like, oh, look at these little sapphics.
It's like, what? Bro?
Yeah.
I know, Robert Jordan really does not know how to have women interact in any sort of, like, close settings.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, well, obviously they bathe together, they sleep in the same bed, da-da-da-da-da, they share clothes, they share periods.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Share
And I'm like, I wore matching outfits with my best friend when I was 10.
Yeah.
I have not, since then, shared a bed with a woman, except with, like, a female friend, you know? Unless we were, for some reason, at a hotel where there was only one bed. There was
only one bed.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just, like...
I have never taken a bath with a friend. Or any other person.
Yeah, like... No offense to people who like romantic baths, but baths are me time. That is a sacred time that I will not share with anybody.
Yeah.
I refuse to.
How can you relax unless you're alone, you know?
Exactly, Emily.
Crazies. Okay.
Relax.
Relax.
With 8 other people in the room while I'm naked? No. Okay, but yeah, her bath is interrupted.
By the Windfinders, who very blackly shove Brigitte into the room and are super aggressive to everyone who tries to prevent them from entering the room. They just won't take no for an answer.
It's like, Robert...
They have no sense of decorum, courtesy, or human decency. Okay, Robert, we fucking get it.
Yeah, like, in terms of, like, racism about the sea folk being angry black women, this is, like, one of the
more egregious moments.
Yeah, one of the, like, if I were to write an essay about Robert Jordan's racism...
Yeah, this would be a peak one.
This would be a peak piece of evidence, because they are, like, Emily just laid it all out, they are so aggressive, they are indecent and inhuman, and, like, they're literally... can put it in the forms of them assaulting Elaine in a very vulnerable situation. She's literally a naked, white, strawberry blonde woman.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, we need to talk to you right now.
Yeah, like, Brigitte exits the bathroom because they hear all this, like, commotion and yelling. And then, like, as is pretty normal, like, pokes her head back in to tell them what's going on. And, like, one of them just, like, shoves her in so that they can get past her.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. But then the effect of that is to, like, infantilize Brigitte and Elaine's most 100% female guards to be like, they can't handle a security breach. Which, like, Elaine, once everything's calmed down, is like, don't let people in again. And it's like, I mean, they shouldn't have to begin with. That's what they're for.
Yeah.
You know, you shouldn't have to, like, berate them. Robert Jordan just set it up so that you would have to.
Yeah.
To humiliate them further. Anyway, what the Windfinders, led by Zeta, are there to tell Elaine is urgent in sea folk terms, except that they then spend what seems to be a good hour bargaining with Elaine, so it doesn't seem that urgent in hindsight. But they are there to tell her that the, like, wave mistress, is that her name?
Nesta
Din Reyes, who we met in Crown of Swords. She, like, interacted with the girls and also with Matt specifically. So she was there when Ebudar was invaded. And the Seafolk are now receiving word that she died in the Shanshan invasion. And so they now have to reconvene to elect a new wave mistress. And Zeta herself has high hopes for being the next wave mistress. And maybe she is, I don't remember. But anyway, she's come to Elaine to initiate bargaining, basically because she's like, I now have power in which I can just remove all of the Windfinders, which I know that you need in order to carry out your siege effectively, because some of them can travel to open gateways for supplies. And this is meant to be like a moment of character growth for Elaine, and that she, the last time she bargained with the sea folk, got her ass handed to her. And here she seems to do a moderately good job, where she's like, it pretty much gets, like, what they were willing to give up, but we all got what we wanted in the end. She gets to keep some of the Windfinders and ensures that the sea folk don't just kidnap every stray Aes Sedai they come across in an effort to fulfill the bargain to have Aes Sedai teachers. They are going to kidnap Merilil, though.
R.I.P. Marileal.
Yeah, R.I.P. Marileal. And Elaine's like, okay, but you have to bring her back if we need her, meaning if we find out she's a fucking Black Aja. And I'm like, just leave her there.
Yeah.
You hate these women so much, it seems.
Yeah.
Jeez. And if I've learned anything about Black Aja ladies being in captivity situations with aggressive, violent women, it's that, I don't know, no one's happy except Robert Jordan, who gets to depict a lot of torture and bondage.
Yeah. It's not like Marileal would be having a good time.
But, I mean, Marileal is not a dark friend. I will remove her from the list. Spoiler alert.
She is?
She's not.
Oh, yeah, she's not. No, I knew that. We got to the point where we figured out who everybody
Oh, you
was.
figured it out. I figured it out.
Yeah, it happens when Elaine gets randomly kidnapped.
Oh, yeah.
By a bunch of Black Aja because
she
she's
has
the
to get kidnapped.
stupidest woman in the entire fucking world.
We'll get to it.
Like, I cannot believe that sequence happened. The whole time I was reading it, I was just like, surely
Surely
there's going to be a reveal.
the pregnant Queen of England, aren't going on a SWAT raid of a well-known dark friend.
Yeah, a SWAT raid planned in about 15 minutes flat.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh no, I'm totally doing this.
And it's like, bitch.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
Are you kidding me? And she's just like, it's me, Elaine. I'm literally so stupid and
I hate her.
incompetent, but I'm blonde and pretty and white, so I can just get away with it.
Anyway, the sea folk leave, which is a relief to us, the readers at least, because we're like, great, that's one less thing that I fucking have to deal with.
Yeah.
What they got in exchange for leaving Windfinders was like a piece of land on the river.
Yeah.
That they can use to basically like build a port town.
Yeah.
And, you know, progress trade further into the continent, which, like, great for
Good
them. Yeah. Elaine and Avienda then get dressed. We have another very long sequence in which they get dressed. And Brigitte arrives, or someone arrives. Brigitte finds out that Diellen has returned with several heads of major houses. As we said last episode, I think there are tons of minor houses, but only 19 major ones. And Elaine needs a majority of major house backing in order to actually succeed to the throne. For some reason, this is considered important enough that we, the readers, are meant to keep our own arithmetic of who is on Elaine's side and who isn't, rather than Robert Jordan just telling us occasionally.
Yeah. Being like, here's an accounting sheet.
Yeah, or
Pro
him just
Elaine.
being like, Elaine still doesn't have the majority. The end. I'd be like, great, that's literally all I need.
Yeah, okie dokie, Robert.
But if you're behind, there are 5 or 6 houses that are, like, literally besieging Camelin, so those ones are definitely anti-Elaine. Then there's a bunch who are neutral, or who Diellen is like, yeah, they'll come around, but they've been supporting Diellen.
Yeah, they want Diellen to be queen. And you know what?
They're right.
So do I.
Yeah. But anyway, Elaine and Avienda get dressed for a meeting with important heads of houses, only to find out, what's this? It's a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah. Like, I would say between 13 and 16 or 17.
The oldest boy is said to be 16 or 17. The youngest boy isn't given a specific age, but I was gauging him at like 10 or 11. Because he's never given any description of being like, he's just described as like a pretty blonde boy. And so I was kind of like, oh, he's prepubescent. I could be totally wrong though. There's 4 of them, 3 boys, a girl. The oldest boy is like 16 or 17. Elaine expects him to have an advisor, but the advisor it was basically like, I hate this motherfucker. You deal with him, Elaine. He's so annoying. And he is annoying.
He's a total fuckhead.
But let me make this clear. He is annoying in a totally normal 16-year-old boy way.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm invincible and you should listen to me. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, literally every 16-year-old boy you've ever met just behaves like that.
Yeah.
What boggles the mind is that Elaine herself is only 18.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what...
Is she really only 18? I
think
thought
she
she
is.
was... No, I think that's right. For some reason...
I get mixed up between her and egg.
Me too.
They're
Me too.
both between, like, 18 and 20.
Yeah, for some reason I thought Elaine was like 19 or 20 here. But, like, the point still holds. There's not a ton of difference between being 18, 19, and 20. So when she's like, these fucking children, what am I supposed to do with these fucking children? They have no idea what they're doing. How can they lead a house? And it's like, you want to lead an entire country?
Yeah, now you know how Diellen feels about you 100% of the time.
Yeah.
You idiot. Not that Robert Jordan himself, like, makes an effort to point that out.
No.
Elaine's hypocrisy there. He's just like, yeah, Elaine's totally justified in thinking these children are idiots. The girl is 14, 15, is also super annoying, also in a super normal 14, 15-year-old girl way.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Robert Jordan makes her a little bit more bratty than necessary. Like, most teenagers in general are kind of bratty, so it's not, like, totally off scope, but I just feel like he wants us to remember that she's a teenage girl, and therefore she is a brat, rather than being, like, a teenage girl with a different type of personality.
Yeah. A normal teenage
It's like
girl.
a normal teenage girl who is occasionally a brat and occasionally just fine.
Occasionally very lovely.
Yeah. But
Like, pretty much all teenagers are. Surprise, people are human. They have more than 3 character traits at a time.
no, Catalin, whatever her name is, her character traits are stupid, bratty, mean,
Arrogant, maybe.
arrogant, yeah.
Then there are these 2 little boys, one who's, I think, meant to be 12 or 13. He's pubescent, it seems, because he's checking out Brigitte ass when she's in heels, which I don't know why Robert Jordan needs to
Yeah, it's
tell
like,
us
you
that.
don't need to do this.
I assume everyone, man or woman, is checking out Brigitte's ass all of the time
she's
because
very
she's
sexy.
incredible and beautiful.
Yeah, I would be like, damn, look at that ass.
Also, totally normal thing for a 12-year-old boy to, as long as you're not fucking rude about it.
Yeah, and, like, by all appearances, he's just, like, is normal about it. He was just, like, looking.
He's just like, oh, a woman in heels and trousers. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, and she's also very pretty, you know? And it's just, like, totally fine. And Elaine has this comment where she's like, Brigitte likes to be looked at by men, but it has to be grown men. And I'm like, okay, there's, like, a point to be made there. But also, like, this weird way that in this instance they want to just, like, villainize a totally normal expression of male sexuality.
I know. It's very weird.
Him just being like, oh yeah, that's a pretty woman and I'm a 13-year-old boy and I just don't really, I'm just, like, looking.
Yeah, he's just like, Robert Jordan is setting it up for another gender moments with Robert Jordan. With rainbow font. He's, like, expecting it to be like, we have to set this up for man has normal expression of sexuality. Woman totally overreacts because what Elaine is saying is that if Brigitte caught him, she would slap him.
Yeah.
Basically. And I'm like, if Brigitte caught a 12-year-old boy looking at her, yeah, of course, like a normal adult, she would not be, like, into that.
Yeah.
Because that's
gross.
terrible. But, like, it would also be totally abnormal for her to react violently to a child.
Yeah. And there's also just this, like, deeper rhetoric of Robert being like, you see women always overreact when men hit on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you are drawing comparisons that are not even in the same realm of experience.
And also there's an element of, like, Brigitte's asking for it because she likes when adult men look at her.
Yes.
And she also wears trousers, which is, for some reason, such a huge turn on. Da-da-da-da. Anyway, our last head of house is a little boy, the little blonde boy, who is the most personable of all of them in that he is a little boy and knows he's a little boy.
Yeah.
But he is also moderately astute and has clearly been well-trained.
Yeah.
And so Elaine's like, great, he will go far in 10 years from now.
Is he the one, is it him or the slightly older boy where Diellen is like, yeah, everyone's kind of, like, fighting over who should be his guardian, so I just kind of, like, took him away.
No, that's the slightly older boy. They all have hilarious excuses for their guardians not to be there. The older boy's just like, yeah, they wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah.
The middle boy is basically like, yeah, the whole family was just fighting too much that Diellen just kidnapped him casually. And Elaine's like, you kidnapped him. And Diellen's like, they won't even notice.
They won't even notice, and he wanted to come. And the boy's like, yeah, Diellen, help me get here. And Dylan's just like, what's a little kidnapping on a Tuesday?
Yeah.
You know?
And the little boy, just like, his guardian just recently, is in, like, bed rest.
Yeah, he's very old.
Super, just some elderly-ass man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So funny.
Let me be clear, it is totally unnecessary that we have personalities, even names, for these characters.
Yeah.
Why we get a chapter about them is beyond me.
They're not ultimately that important, except that they are supporting Elaine.
Yeah, they're there to support Elaine. It is kind of like they're teens. They don't necessarily actually support Elaine in any way that matters.
Yeah, like, they bring some soldiers with them, but it's not, like, a huge amount. It's like a couple thousand, which is a lot of soldiers, but when you're talking in terms of armies, that's not a terrible amount of soldiers.
But yeah, that's just it. The chapter ends with the heads of houses being left to get set up in their rooms. Dylan casually slut-shames Brigitte. Just for fun, because Brigitte and Dylan hate each other, and I guess that's just what Robert Jordan thinks should happen. And then the scene ends with someone coming in to be like, our two favorite characters, Reen Harfor and Halwyn Nori, are here to talk to you, Elaine. And that's what happens.
And that's what happens.
And that's what happens. Just a lot of unnecessary content.
Let's bring back our favorite game of favorite character, least favorite character. We're not very good at doing this.
Yeah, we've forgotten the last couple. Oh gosh. Well,
I would say mine is Dylan for kidnapping, with his consent, a small child.
Oh, for favorite character?
Yeah.
I wasn't
favorite
characters. I was just thinking about least favorite characters. I guess my favorite character is, the small boy child who doesn't do anything wrong.
Small boy child.
He's just there.
It's just like, I am aware that I'm 10 years old.
He's just like, I'm here, 10 years old, to play the political game. Sign me up.
When you play the Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he's very, who's the younger king in Game of Thrones, who's not a sociopath?
God, what is
the little
his
one
name?
who jumps out a window.
Yeah, what is his name?
We'll never know. Least favorite characters. It's hard because there's so many. And I don't want to, like, enforce what Robert Jordan's doing with any of them, you know?
I know, I want my least favorite character to be Robert Jordan. I want to be... my least favorite character is the characters as they are puppeted by Robert Jordan.
Yeah, Robert Jordan, you did fucked up. Stop it. Okay. That's it.
That's it.
Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks to Glenna McKenzie for our theme song, and to our patrons on Patreon, and our followers on social media. Just so you know, we're taking a bye week next week, because I am going to be on... Whoa.
I'm just patting you because you deserve a vacation.
Oh, well, some might call it a vacation. Others might call it an extended babysitting retreat.
Oh, Angel.
Either way, I will be unavailable to record and edit the podcast. So we'll just be gone that week, but then we'll be back in a little while for yet more Camelin content.
God, it, like, never ends.
Yeah, that hot, off the presses Camelin content. And then after that, we're heading over to Egg for also quite a long time.
Egg.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye. I wonder if I can watch Bill Nye the Science Guy anywhere. I could stand to have a 5th grade science education.
I have a 5th grade science education currently, and it's not doing me any good. All I know is that microplastics are bad.
There's microplastics everywhere.
There sure are. Okay, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Great. Do you have a sign off?
Yeah, today my boss joined a meeting that she didn't really need to join because she thinks I'm doing a bad job. So, and corrected everything I said in the meeting.
Well, that's fun.
I mean, it's because I was wrong. So it's not like she was like doing it maliciously. She wanted to be ensure people got the right information, but it felt real bad.
My boss just ignored me repeatedly. That
Great.
Also felt
so
bad. So
maybe we stop working.
Yeah, okay. I'm down to clown. Unionize.
Unionize.
Ashimon, unionize.
Ashimon, unionize.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.